he was awesome at sending emails and contacting people when he first heard the news. But after that, he was also in the blind, because we were like, okay, was it real? Did it happen? First of all, what did the person look like? What's the description? So we will be on the lookout. So all of that, we were lacking that information.
Are there any other thoughts? So I think this ties in with, you know, one of the recommendations in the report, which is communication and transparency. And, you know, to some extent, toxic positivity. So I see there are a couple of suggestions to bring in maybe Daryl Jeter, the chief of police, Chief Perry, and some other folks from campus security. Shall we shoot for December? Okay, so if you have further thoughts on this, please email me or Matt. We will try to get some folks set up for the December meeting to try to continue this conversation. And the second thing I've been asked to talk about is there has been a heightened awareness of threats of violence around the election. And as I said, in the campus and community advisory council, we talk a lot about empathy and flexibility and support, love and live it limits came up, all around how we care for each other. And I wanted to create space here if folks wanted to reach out or share what they were thinking.
I think this is another example of uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. And I think the silence speaks for itself.
I mean, I guess I'm thinking about, like, who are these messages for? Because, you know, I think being asked to be empathetic or to be flexible, you know, suggests that there are folks who that is not their default setting on campus. So I kind of wonder, you know, when hearing this, hearing guidance coming down from folks who are higher up the food chain at the institution, you know, it's hard. It's been hard for me to process because it just seems like platitudes for folks who, if you're not already thinking about moving through the world in this way, then, like, good luck being convinced that, you know, saying, you know, being more empathetic or being more flexible is going to make a change in how others are approaching the work. I guess that's sort of where my confusion is, connected to some of this toxic positivity, because everything seems like it is, those messages all seem to suggest that whoever is saying them has a certain amount of comfort and stability at the institution. And like, that is not something that and I would imagine others feel particularly strongly on any given day. So I think that's where I'm somewhat skeptical of those messages, given that I don't know that that is necessarily possible for all the folks who they're trying to reach.
I, Phil, I agree. I definitely want to go back to what Tracy was saying is, you know, it's just another level of uncertainty. And I think that, you know, speaking personally, I do not do well with uncertainty, period, let alone in a pandemic where we have no idea what's going to happen, with a gigantic election where we have no idea what's going to happen, with a budget situation that we have no idea what's going to happen, and we won't know until, you know, January or February, whenever they go back into session at the absolute earliest. Like, it's just compounding, like, thing after thing after thing after thing, and all of it's uncertain. Like, I can't find the certainty in anything right now. And that's hard, right? Because finding certainty is like a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't see that yet. And so and I don't know which light will come first, right? Like, are we going to get a light on COVID? Are we going to get a light on the budget? Is it going to be a good light? Is it going to be a bad light? And, you know, these are all more questions than answers, but you asked for thoughts, so those are my thoughts.
Right.
Well, oh, sorry, Shana.
No, go ahead.
You know, if you think about this, empathy is an exhaustible resource. If you fill up your gas tank and you drive and you drive and you drive, you can only drive for so long before you have to fill up again, or you just have to stop. And the thing with empathy is you can't fill it up yourself. Others have to fill up your tank for you. If we look at this, and I know a lot of focus is on 2020. Okay, so Friday we had the potential active shooter, and then we have this tumultuous election. Go back, we have, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and then we have all the social injustice on top of that. But I will remind you, if you go back even further, we have gone for nearly 2 years now without any type of budget updates, or anything like that. And if you add on top of that, we were in a place last year where we didn't know what our health insurance was going to look like. All of this has just been on top of each other, on top of something else. And all this time, we've had to be empathetic to others. We've had to be empathetic to students. We had to be compassionate to everything that's going on. And I think we're just getting to the point to where the empathy tank is empty, because we're not getting anything from outside sources to refill our empathy tank, because it is sort of like, okay, I can go a little bit further because I know that UNC system and state legislature is working hard and is going to get me the money that I deserve, or at least a portion of the money that I deserve. We're not getting any of that. So I think we're just getting to the point to where our empathy tank is getting very close to being empty.
Thank you, Keith. I think a lot of people are responding that they completely agree with you.
Yes, I agree too. And just to compound it even more, going back to inconsistency, I've talked to employees, staff members who have varying degrees of empathy from their supervisors. When the supervisors have been asked to be flexible, and then they just aren't. and that has an impact on the staff members who are, you know, are subjected to that. And then it's even more of a slap in the face when your colleague who works, you know, in the next office over, and their boss is being flexible with them. And I hate to, you know, I know it sounds really childish to say, oh, well, that's just not fair, but it isn't. And that's one of the problems I think that's going on now too, is that there's not equity. It's not equitable for everybody because we're dealing with humans that aren't being empathetic.
And, you know, the absence of empathy leaves room for apathy, to where people are going to start getting to the point to where they're like, I don't care. I really don't care what's going on. I'm just going to show up, go through the motions, go home, because I can't continue to pour all this care into other people and no one ever pour any care into me. And I'm not saying that no one does, because I feel like we are all here for each other and we are all empathetic with each other. But it is one thing to be empathetic on a same or shared level, but to fill up someone's tank, you need empathy from people here pouring it down.
I wanted to share some things that are being shared with me privately that people do not feel like strong enough to, or they don't want their name attached. It feels like we are in an abusive relationship, gaslighting, acting like we are overreacting to their mistakes, expecting positivity despite bad behavior and lack of transparency. We are not unreasonable for having expectations or requiring accountability, but we are made to feel that way and it feels horrible. And thank you, we have this space. Thankful we have this space. It is our safe haven and shelter. And to add to what you were saying, Keith, I worry about people becoming apathetic, but I also worry about people that get crushed, and the feelers and the empaths that just keep taking on and taking on and taking on. Those are the folks that I worry about.
I want to say how much I appreciate that. It's weird for me to be told or to try to absorb a message to increase empathy when it already puts me at risk. Not of like, wow, I can't do my job because I feel the feelings too much, but more like I'm required to use a certain amount of empathy on the job. I'm already doing it, thanks. I want to say that the thing I'm feeling a lot more is just numbness. I don't know if I'd rather hear nothing from the powers that be or platitudes. I can't really choose effectively between those. What's done a lot for my morale over the last week with all that we're facing and have just faced has been the shared language, this term that somebody coined that I appreciate so deeply, which is toxic positivity. I don't know where that came from, but that is at the top of my list of things to be thankful for. And that sounds weird. I'm not sure I have the right words to describe that feeling, but it's like they nailed it. And it's something that now that it's been named, it's not going to go and get covered up easily. The power of that shared term for something that people may not have been able to put their own words to is something I would like to keep on the screen.
I think that I'm sort of echoing all of this, so I'm not really adding anything new, but we're getting a lot of this messaging to take care of ourselves and to take time for ourselves. And I'm not really sure where that time comes from. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to have a lot of work to do to get ready for spring, you know? So I do appreciate that, to encourage people to take time and for supervisors to be understanding and to grant that time. I don't see deadlines extending. You know, we're still sort of having to stick to everything. So I guess, like, just echoing, there's messaging, but it's, I guess the follow through is, that's sort of where it stops. Like, so.
You know, the challenge for many people that I converse regarding these issues are that, you know, staff are being told that if they need a mental health day or if they need some time off, they can take time off, they can take care of themselves. At the same time, people are worried. For example, in my department, people are worried that if I'm taking time off, that means I don't have enough work. Or, you know, if I am just saying, you know, I have this issue, am I capable to continue work? And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to put myself out there. Last week, I took the wrong medication by mistake, and I had an allergic reaction. So I couldn't work on Monday, but I was so tense in my department because the uncertainty is so much. And the things, you know, and after a staff meeting, we were having these thoughts about, okay, now we can't do this, we cannot do this. And I'm going to say lack of transparency, that I felt like, let me not take any more days off, because then my boss is going to think that I don't have anything to do. And then I'm speaking to another colleague that was having another issue. She was like, you know what, I'm already at home, I'm sick, I'm not going to take the day off, because what if later on, you know, that comes back, fires back at you. And you know, this isn't a real issue. Whenever I'm feeling down, I have a lot of anxiety for what's going on. I mean, I literally went to bed at 2:00 in the morning, and I was up at 6. And this is, you know, what's going on in our nation today is creating anxiety. Thank God that I have it under control. But there are people that I work with me, that are colleagues, that I was exchanging messages. They're at a loss. Like, they don't know what's going on in the next few weeks. We don't know if this is going to turn, America is going to turn to the purge. So, you know, you're having all our leaders tell us, yeah, take time off, but it's just like, what do we do? Because do I take time off? Do I not take time off? Are they going to think that I don't have enough work? Would I get laid off? It's just, you know, what we're going through is very difficult. And I really don't know how we can all make it better, because once we overcome an obstacle, 3 more come, and it's just exhausting.
You know, I'd just like to add that I personally am just exhausted from emotionally, physically. It's just too much at one time. You know, I have struggled for months now because I haven't been able to see my son. So I finally did get to see my son. So that was a blessing. But just tired. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Just tired.
Thank you, Teresa. I think we can all relate to that. So I want to be mindful of the time. It is 11:30, so those of you who have to go, I completely understand. I also don't want to, you know, cut this time off if people feel like this is helping or they need to share something with the group. But I completely understand if you have to go and do the mountainous amount of work that we all have in front of us. So I think that these are all things that we can bring into this community conversation. Because I honestly think that most of the administration does not understand how we are feeling right now. And it would be helpful for them to know that some of us really feel like we're at our breaking point.
And I agree, Shana. I think we need to bring this up in the community conversation because right now there is uncertainty. And right now we may not even know who our next president is going to be for weeks. And even when we do find out, we don't know the events that will transpire after that. So I think that we need to start planning for what's going to happen, or at least taking some precautionary measures. I personally, we're talking about this. I know it's therapeutic, but I wouldn't want to wait until December. I think this is something that can also be in this November 23rd meeting, if we can possibly add this topic as well.
Great. I think you're right. Well, I personally want to say to each and every one of you, if you need anything at all, please reach out. I answer emails all times of night and day, and I would rather hear from you than find out later that you were carrying a burden that was too heavy. So you have my invitation to reach out if you need to. I'm here. And I think there's several of us in this room that feel the same way.
I want to say, yes, I want to say that we're also here for you, and we appreciate your leadership, but you are taking this so hard, and it's really impacting you. And I don't know about everybody else, but I also want you to know that we are also here for you. And then you have a group and a body of people behind you 100%, and same thing goes for you. Please take care of yourself. You don't have to suffer all this alone. Everyone is also here for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's becoming abundantly clear that this is impacting me in a really, really profound way. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So is there a motion to adjourn?
This is Arlene. I move we adjourn.
Okay, everybody, please take care of yourselves.
Bye,
And
everybody.
support one another.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Stay safe, stay well.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
All right, Matt, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down.